For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Shannon de Ryhove. Norton Rose South Africa legal advisor André Vos follows up on the nationalisation and expropriation debate following the State of the Nation address. The ANC's recently released nationalisation report proposes a 50% tax on mining super profits as a way to help the poor better benefit from South Africa's mineral riches. What effect will this have on South Africa's mining industry?
I think it's important to understand this latest proposal in context. You'll recall that the debate has been ongoing for some time about what is the best way in South Africa to benefit from our natural resources. The debate was started by the ANC Youth League. They released a report in August 2010 that said there should be nationalisation of the mines, but they weren't very specific about how that should be implemented. The ANC, as the ruling party, have commissioned a report, a detailed report which is confidential but has been leaked to the media, certainly as far as the summary is concerned. And the summary alone is 60 pages. But that report looked at various options. The researchers went to a number of countries, I think 14 in total, including Australia. Now, this idea of a super tax on super profits come from the Australian model. Australia is about to implement in July this year a so-called mineral resource rent tax. And that's a tax, as I say, a super tax on super profits. Only profits above 50 million Australian dollars will be taxed. There are various triggers and considerations that go into the application of the tax. Some would say it's quite a complicated method. But one must bear in mind it's only limited in Australia to coal and iron ore projects, and as I say, only profits above 50 million Australian dollars, which is on par with the US dollar at the moment. So the super profits will be taxed at a certain rate in addition to the normal taxes. And some would say that that is a much more equitable way of distributing the mineral wealth to the country as a whole.
What impact could these super taxes have on foreign direct investment in South Africa?
One would have to see how the proposals for South Africa would work. Again, one must understand the process in its context. Where is the process at the moment? There's a report to the governing party who has to still consider it within their structures later this year. And once that has taken place, perhaps that could become government policy. And if so, there will have to be concrete proposals and draft legislation to take this into account. Another feature of the Australian legislation is that there's a reduction in royalty. Now, at the moment in South Africa, there's also a royalty act. Mining companies pay royalties on what they mine. So that is, in Australia, they reduced the royalty rate to take account of the super profits, the super tax proposals. So there's a counterbalance between the two. It's not yet another tax on top of an existing heavy tax load. That'll have to be factored into the equation. I'm not sure that it affected investment elsewhere in the world. We've seen, and I spoke about it last time, the so-called resource nationalism around the world, where governments around the world are looking at increasing revenue from natural resources. Government fiscuses are under pressure and they're looking for more funds, and mineral resources is at the moment very much in the spotlight as a source to fund government income.
President Jacob Zuma's comments that nationalisation would be an unmitigated disaster later rest 2 years of debate that hit South Africa's image as an investor-friendly emerging market. What impact could this have on South Africa's mining legislation?
That remark comes from the research report commissioned by the ANC that out-and-out nationalisation, where there's a complete confiscation of mining assets, would be a so-called unmitigated disaster. I think there's a sound reality in that, because no one wants to see that sort of well, most people don't want to see that sort of extreme nationalism. The question also arises, if there is out-and-out nationalisation, who's going to pay for it? I mean, reportedly, the mineral resources in South Africa, just of the listed companies on the JSE, is worth in excess of R1 trillion. So these are huge, big numbers. I think also that remark echoes the thinking of the ruling party and therefore government, that you have to find a sensible way of implementing any changes to our existing regime. So it's got to be workable, and you can't go and do something that will be a disaster for the economy.
The ANC Youth League has rejected the report, saying it did not do what the ANC National General Council said should be done, and they will gather more facts to argue its case for the nationalisation of mines at the ANC Policy Conference in June. What will the effect of this be?
The Youth League has always been heavy on ideological speak, but light on facts and practical detail, practical proposals about how nationalisation should take place. It is now faced with a very detailed and thorough report, over 600 pages, that the ANC commissioned. So they will have to come up with an equally, one would think, an equally detailed and thorough report to counter any proposals that that is on the table at the moment for the ANC to consider. And a lot of that is also, I think, politics. One must understand the political streams within the ruling party, and a lot of the pronouncements on this topic is driven by ideology as opposed to perhaps legal considerations or economic considerations. Although the Youth League will hold otherwise, they will say these precisely for economical reasons that they propose these things.
That was Norton Rose South Africa legal advisor André Vos following up on the nationalisation and expropriation debate.